we doing here tonight? Supposedly, we're here to honor our graduates, all the hard work they've put in and the significant knowledge they've accumulated over the last 3 years. But what we're really doing is trying to justify and glorify an institution which many of us know to be pretty much of a failure. Many of us will go on to college, but only a few will have a chance to finish. The rest of us, as the former vice president said, have little more chance of finding a decent job than those of us who could not hack San Jose High and dropped out a year ago. Some of you here now are thinking that I'm putting down the very idea of getting an education, but I'm not. I am saying that an education is crucial, and that is why there is so much cause for dissatisfaction with the education the class of 71 just had shoved down its collective throat. But even now, I am not putting down all that I found here. In this school system, gifted teachers are to be found, dedicated and anxious to help us learn. But they too are bogged down with petty paperwork, attendance records, faculty meetings, reading notices, training programs, everything but teaching. By the time the forms are filled out and the notices read, sometimes the time spent teaching and learning in classes here was reduced to 15 minutes. People complain that students are too impatient and demanding. But when we ask important questions about drugs, for example, do they send us a doctor? No, they send us a cop with a badge and a gun, and he implies that one puff on a joint... He implies that one puff on a joint and we're hooked on heroin for life. If that were true, half the class graduating here tonight would be junkies. We knew that as sophomores. When we want to know from our American government class why the United States spends $30 billion a year killing women and children in Vietnam, we're told that we're stopping a bunch of Asians in black pajamas from coming ashore at Alviso, bent on enslaving 200 million Americans. When we question the integrity of a government which makes millions of black and brown citizens go hungry, go to jail, and go to an early grave in their own country, the school system, not willing to discuss such matters with us, pipes in a television spectacular about $40 million worth of hardware being shot to the moon so that our government, like Hertz Rent-A-Car, can be number one. Big deal. We're all taught how to drive a car, but never how to avoid being cheated by dishonest advertising in banks and finance companies. When we ask questions about how to stop or avoid pregnancy, the teachers are not allowed to tell us much more than take a cold shower. If they do, they are subject to punishment by the hypocrites in the district office who still think that babies come from storks. We are constantly told that we must be responsible, yet we need a signed and time-stamped license to go 2 doors down to the bathroom. We're taught to respect a government that sends us to fight its racist war, but we're not taught that we have a greater obligation to resist that government when it starves its own people. The schools loudly deplore the use of illegal dope by its students, but they are strangely silent about the giant drug companies who make millions on the side with dealers who push the dope to these same students. After going through 3 years at San Jose High, many of us would like to ask one big question. Why does the school, which is supposedly here to serve our needs, so consistently ignore those needs? Could it be that we are too impatient? Obviously not. The school, nothing has changed much in the last few years. Is it a problem of money? No, that's just a convenient excuse. It would cost less to hire a qualified drug counselor or draft counselor than it did to hire one of the file-filling, pencil-pushing administrators in the district office. students, and it isn't a matter of money. Maybe it's the parents' fault, as some teachers and administrators insist. But as far as I know, the parents still pay all the bills, and they still do what they can to encourage and help their kids get an education. And yet they seem to have no more influence on how the schools are run than their children. Well, who are the schools serving? And what are they producing for the future? I have to admit, one thing the school does do is it provides a terrific babysitting service which keeps kids off the streets for 13 years. Next, the school maintains things as they are, the status quo, by rewarding students for being quiet, obedient, dependent children, while all the time telling them that they are being prepared for responsibility and adulthood. Last, and most important, it provides a silent, desperate, mortgaged, and cheap labor force for this country. Another thing people say is that we young people just complain, that we criticize and tear things apart without offering any better methods for change. But many of us at San Jose High did try to improve the schools, and we ran into the same disorganization among ourselves and the same resistance and excuses from the school as did all the classes before us. We didn't know what to do, but now, looking back, I think we are ready to offer some advice for those of you soon coming to San Jose High. It will be your school, so don't be afraid to ask questions about why things happen as they do. It is your life that the schools will be dealing with. Don't feel guilty for trying to have some say in how your life goes. Every hour you spend in the classroom, the clock keeps ticking away. Don't let your life be wasted. When you do find a teacher who really wants to help you and answer your questions, fight for his right to do so. Find out who is keeping you down. It's not other students. They want the same things you do. When you see the administration coming down on one student, back that student. And when it is time to stick your neck out, don't be afraid to. The power in the school should be and can be in your hands if you take it. I can well imagine that some of you are thinking, listen to these ungrateful snots. Who do they think they are, complaining just because there are things wrong with the educational system? May I tell you who we are? We are not ungrateful snots. We are not criminals. We are not bomb throwers. We are not insane. And we are not your enemies. We are your children. And when we become angry and when we cry out, it is because we feel pain. How can you ignore us and listen to Richard Nixon? Thank you.
There's a time in every society, as it's developing, as it's growing, when the learner seeks out the teacher. In the primitive societies, very primitive societies, the young child learns from his father. The child who wishes to be an arrow maker or wishes to be a miller or whatever in a society goes to the man who can teach him that. And in this phase of social development, of civilization development,